need you to pay attention to the timeline in this one. Because Marcus did. He wrote down every time, every detail, like he knew that if he didn't anchor it to something real, something measurable, nobody would believe him. I believe him. Not because the story is scary, because of what he found the next morning when he pulled the camera footage. 15 minutes. That's the gap. And I've been trying to explain those 15 minutes since he sent this to me 3 weeks ago. I can't. Marcus is 24. He worked the overnight shift at a pilot station on Route 2 in Northern Oregon. If you've never driven that stretch of highway, let me paint it for you. 2 lanes, no median. Douglas firs on both sides, so tall and so dense that during the day the road feels like a tunnel. At night the trees just become a wall, a solid black wall that starts where the light stops and goes back God knows how far. He took that shift because it paid more. He says if he'd known what was out there in those trees, he would have paid them to let him work days. This is his account. I'm reading it exactly as he sent it. I'm just going to say it straight. I saw something on Route 2 in October, and I haven't slept right since, and I need someone else to know about it because carrying this alone is doing something to me. I'm 24. I took the overnight at the pilot on Route 2 because the day shifts were gone and I needed the money. Midnight to 8 a.m., 6, maybe 7 cars on a busy night. Truckers. Occasionally a family who miscalculated how long the drive was. That's the whole job. The station sits in a clearing off the highway. Trees on 3 sides. Douglas firs. The kind that go up 60, 70 feet before you see sky. During the day it's fine. At night the tree line becomes this solid black wall about 60 feet from the pump island. You can't see anything past it. Not deer, not the road that runs behind it, nothing. I'd been on that shift for 8 months. You get used to it. One thing I started doing, just to break up the night, was go outside and stand by the pumps for a few minutes, get some air. The fluorescents inside hum at this specific frequency that starts to feel like pressure behind your eyes after a few hours. Outside, at least you can breathe. I want to be really clear about this. I'd done this 100 times before that night, maybe more. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever moved. Wednesday, October 9th. I looked it up after to make sure I had the date right. Overcast, no rain, light wind, the kind that moves the upper branches but doesn't really touch you at ground level. Cold enough to see my breath. I walked out to the pump island at around 3 a.m., like always. Highway was empty, no headlights in either direction. Just the hum of the station behind me and the sound of wind way up in the trees and 60 feet of concrete between me and that wall of black. I remember thinking, just for a second, that it was quieter than usual. Not like peaceful quiet, like something had turned a volume knob down. The birds. I didn't realize until that moment that there are always birds out there at night, owls, whatever else lives in those trees, and that I'd stopped hearing them. I don't know exactly when they stopped. That was the first thing. The second thing was the movement. I know wind moves trees. That's not what I'm talking about. The upper branches were moving with the wind. That was normal. But something lower, in the dark part of the tree line where the station light dies, was moving differently. Not with the wind. Slower. And not all in the same direction. I squinted, trying to figure out what I was looking at, and then my brain caught up with my eyes and I understood what I was seeing, and I genuinely wish it hadn't. Shapes between the trees. 8, maybe more. Some of them were too far back in the dark to count. Standing at different depths, different heights, completely silent. And they were all facing out, facing me, not moving toward me, not making any sound. Just standing at the edge of the dark, looking out at the one lit-up human being standing next to a pump island at 3 in the morning on a highway where nobody was coming. I want to tell you I did something smart. I stood there for 2 full minutes. I don't know why. I think part of my brain was still running the deer explanation, the shadow explanation, the your eyes are tired explanation, running them on a loop trying to make one of them fit. None of them fit. Deer don't stand upright. Shadows don't shift their weight from one foot to the other. I need to stop here. Because after I read Marcus's account, I did what I always do. I went looking for something to push back with. I pulled up the satellite image of that stretch of Route 2. The clearing is there, exactly like he described. This perfect rectangle cut out of the forest, the station sitting in the middle of it, trees on 3 sides pressing right up to the edge. I kept zooming out, waiting for a road, a structure, anything. The forest goes back 12 miles before you hit pavement again. 12 miles. I've driven roads like that. I know what 12 miles of trees feels like from a car at 60 miles an hour. Now think about what it looks like standing still at 3 a.m. with the lights out. Marcus wasn't standing at the edge of nothing. He was standing at the edge of 12 miles of somewhere. I'm not telling you what was in those trees. I'm just telling you there was a lot of room for something to come from, and a lot of room to go back to. I went inside. I locked the door. And I want to emphasize that in 8 months on that shift, I had never once locked that door because there was no reason to. The lock was stiff. It took me 2 tries. I sat down behind the counter. My hands were doing something I didn't tell them to do. Just shaking. Not dramatically. Just this low, constant tremor that I couldn't make stop. I pulled out my phone to call. I don't even know who. My manager. My mom. I don't know. I just wanted to hear a voice. No service, which is normal for that spot. I knew that. I'd known that for 8 months. It had never bothered me before that night. I sat there for maybe 3 minutes trying to slow my breathing down. That's when the lights went out. Not a flicker. Not a brownout. Off. Everything at once. Every fluorescent overhead. The pump displays outside. The refrigerator cases behind me. The neon beer signs. The pilot logo out front. Completely off. The only light was the moon. Filtered through clouds so it was barely anything. Just enough to turn the windows from black to dark gray. And in that gray light, I could see the pump island and the 60 feet of concrete between me and the trees and the tree line. I don't know how to write this part in a way that fully gets it across. The shapes that had been vague before, suggestions of shapes, things I could talk myself out of, were clearer now. Still not clear, but clearer. There were more of them than I'd counted outside. A lot more, and they had moved. Not into the clearing, right to the edge of it, standing at the exact border where the trees ended and the open ground began. Like a line. Like they were standing at a boundary and the boundary was the only thing between them and the pump island and me. I wasn't thinking. Not really. No. That's not right either. I was thinking one thing only. Don't let them know you can see them. I don't know where that came from. I didn't ask for it. It was just there, like it had always been there, waiting for exactly this moment. I sat behind the counter. I didn't move. I watched the tree line through the gray and I did not move. I don't know how long the lights were out. It felt like a long time. The lights came back on, just like before. No flicker, no surge. On. And the tree line was just trees. Still. Empty. Wind moving the upper branches. Nothing at the edge. Nothing between the trunks. Nothing. 4 minutes later, a semi pulled off the highway. Idaho plates. Dale. He came in every couple weeks on the Portland run. I knew his face, knew his order before he asked. Large coffee, Slim Jim. He was complaining about the weather before he even got through the door. Rain coming in off the coast, rough stretch ahead. He said all of this like it was a normal night, like the lights hadn't just been off, like the tree line behind him was just a tree line. I smiled. I said, yeah, rough stretch. I took his money. My hands had stopped shaking, or maybe I just stopped noticing. He left. The lot was empty again, and I sat back down, and I didn't look at the door he just walked out of. I looked at the trees. I didn't go outside again for the rest of that shift. Not once. Not when the trash needed taking out. Not when I needed air. I watched the tree line through the window until 8 a.m. when my replacement showed up. I don't remember the drive home. I remember sitting in my car in my own driveway and not being able to make myself go inside. Here's the thing I can't get past. The next morning, I pulled the external camera footage, the camera that covers the pump island and the area in front of the station. It's mounted on the canopy above pump 3, covers about a 120-degree view, including the tree line. There's a gap in the recording. 3:04 a.m. to 3:19 a.m. 15 minutes of nothing. No footage. The file just jumps. 1 second it's 3:03, next second it's 3:20. I called the security company. They sent a technician. He looked at the drive and said it had probably overheated and caused a write error. That drive had been running for 2 years without a single gap. It hasn't had a gap since. Just those 15 minutes. Just that night. I checked something else. The traffic counter on Route 2. The highway department has one about a quarter mile north of the station. I filed a public records request. Took 3 weeks to get it back. Between 3:04 and 3:19 on October 9th, 0 vehicles. 15 minutes. A state highway. 0 vehicles in either direction. I don't know what to do with that information. I just know that whatever was standing at the edge of those trees, they knew when they had the road to themselves. Marcus. Pilot Station, Route 2, Oregon, October 2024. I reached out to Marcus after I read his account. I asked him 2 things. First, did he ever tell anyone at the station what he saw? He said he mentioned the camera gap to his manager. Just the gap, nothing else. His manager told him the camera had been glitching for months. Marcus pulled the logs. It hadn't glitched once in 2 years. Second, I asked him if anything had changed since October. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, "The guy who took my shift, he texted me last week, said the birds go quiet sometimes around 3 a.m. Asked me if that ever happened when I worked there. I didn't answer him. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't make it worse. Route 2, Northern Oregon. The pilot station in that clearing is still open. 24 hours. Somebody's working the overnight right now. Stay safe out there.